So far we've only been talking about organizations making social change within their communities. But we should say that a lot of the social enterprises we met with for this audio doc were also making very conscious choices to consider their environmental impact as well.
And some people include environmental and cultural impact within the idea of social change. But in all cases, the thing that really stood out was how they were trying to make an honest effort to build on a holistic model for social good. Meaning not only what impact are you hoping to achieve, but how are you hoping to achieve that impact?
Yeah, like what are the social byproducts associated with your main goal? What are your environmental costs? How are you paying people? Where are you sourcing things from? How are the labor and environmental practices of your distributors? It's an ongoing process for any social enterprise, asking how we can maximize our social or environmental impact while also considering all of these other factors can seem daunting. Melinda Zeitaric from the Fourth Pig up in Muskoka, Ontario, has not shied away from this challenge.
My name is Melinda Zeitaric, and I'm a founder, worker, owner, and the general manager of Fourth Pig Green and Natural Construction.
So what is the Fourth Pig?
Fourth Pig Green and Natural Construction is a worker co-op that specializes in natural, environmentally friendly, and healthy construction, and has a mission to transform the way that we relate to the built environment, to improve that relationship and make it a more sustainable relationship, and to create good, safe jobs.
The Fourth Pig is vocal about the importance of providing employees with living wages. The concept of a living wage sounds quite simple and is defined as the minimum income necessary for a worker to meet their basic needs. One of the issues is that minimum wage standards are set by the province, but the province has many different places to live.
If you want to live in Toronto, it would be nearly $22 an hour, and in Simcoe County, it's around $18 an hour. The provincial minimum wage in Ontario is currently $14 an hour, which is below the living wage by at least $1.50, even in the most affordable regions of the province. The other thing that complicates these measurements is the fracturing of the workforce into what's commonly called the gig economy, where the idea of permanent employees is being phased out in favor of contract workers, who have less ability to collectively advocate for their rights.
Maybe we're getting a little off track.
It's true. We should get back on track.
The main thing is pay your employees a living wage, or aggressively pursue paying a living wage as an urgent goal. There definitely will be organizations, especially as they're starting out, that won't be able to do this anytime soon, but could prioritize it as a goal.
Yeah, this is part of what we were saying about a holistic view. Paying their workers properly is a byproduct of responsibility. The main goal of the Fourth Pig is to shift building standards in Canada to a greener, more progressive form of construction. And there's a good reason for this.
The housing sector is, by most estimates, well over 40% of our climate change impact, the built environment in general. So not just houses, but all the construction sector, the built environment.
To mitigate this impact, the Fourth Pig focuses their attention on the need to build differently with more environmentally responsible materials, as well as educating other builders about these new practices.
If we are going to do anything to mitigate climate change, the built environment has to be a top priority of that. That's one of the key ways to address climate change.
And to address it properly, it's also going to take some fundamental shifts in the way we think about sustainability and efficiency, taking into account not only the design of the house, but also the history of the materials that go into it.
If you use materials that have conventional materials that have a lot of upfront emissions, like rigid foam boards, blue boards, pink boards, things that are made out of polystyrene, other plastics-based, petroleum-based products, people use those to achieve higher levels of energy efficiency because they want to have less environmental impact. They want to use less energy in their home. But unfortunately, the reality is those materials have more negative impact on the environment and on our climate before you even put them inside your house that you will ever recover with the improvements to your home from throughout 50 years of operating your house. So that's a big shifting of the way people think, that we're trying to stop people from. Energy efficiency is important, it's vital, but we can't chase it exclusively. We have to look at the path that we take to get there is just as important as getting there. And if we take the wrong path to get there, we're not actually achieving our goal.
So that's one way to reduce your environmental impact. The other way has actually already started. It just needs to be tinkered with a bit.
The building code is a fantastic way of doing it. The building code has mandated energy efficiency standards, and the building code actually does have as one of its objectives is to mitigate climate change and reduce greenhouse gases. That is written down as one of the fundamental purposes of objectives of the building code. So the problem is the building code doesn't actually do that as the way it is written now, but there's nothing to say that we couldn't just add a piece to the code, which happens all the time, that says this is the sheet where you measure the carbon that was emitted to build your house. And it would be very easy to, and have colleagues that are working on this, to make a easy form that builders could fill out and to help identify fundamentally how much carbon they emitted into the atmosphere with materials they chose to build the house with, and have to start meeting certain targets, or have to sort of meet certain try to minimize what that number is, and to tell people, if you want to build a home in Muskoka, you have to make sure that you're not putting more than this number of tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
The fourth PIG operates as a workers' co-op. In this type of co-op, the employees are the members and the owners of the enterprise. Cooperatives are democratically controlled businesses with the governing principle, one member, one vote. Any surplus revenue generated by a co-op is owned by the member owners, who can decide how to distribute the profits at the annual general meeting. If they decide to reinvest towards the social goals of the co-op, this model overlaps closely with what we now know as social enterprise. This is Kathy Lang again from the top of the show.
Co-ops are ultimately about people taking charge of their own economy and providing themselves with services. And the services can run anywhere from credit, so you have large credit unions, small credit unions, to housing, cooperative housing, which is a mixed kind of income housing, where you have security of tenure, to daycare and nursery co-ops, and a lot more food and local food-based and organic food co-ops these days as well. So they run the gamut of sectors, but they're generally initiated by and owned and directed by members.
In a lot of cases, co-ops are, almost by default, a social enterprise. They are citizens recognizing gaps in their social environment and working in an open and cooperative way to fill them.
And those gaps could be, as I say, in housing and insurance for farmers and so on. Wherever there wasn't a huge profit motive, then sometimes those needs and services were not being developed and addressed. So cooperatives were a way of people saying, we'd like to take control of this and meet our own needs.
Taking control and meeting needs. It seems to be a common theme among the social enterprises we've heard from in this first episode. Whether charity, nonprofit, for-profit business, or co-op, organizations are succeeding at finding new ways to address gaps in our current social structure and using a social enterprise model to fund those gaps. In part 2, we'll continue to hear from social enterprise innovators in the Central Ontario region.